In the vast wilderness of Montana's Glacier National Park, a heartbroken mare was about to make a choice that would rewrite everything we know about love and nature. When Willow discovered three dying wolf pups beneath a fallen tree, she faced an impossible decision: walk away, as every instinct demanded, or risk everything to save the children of her natural enemy. Deep in Montana's Glacier National Park, where ancient peaks pierce endless skies and silence stretches for miles, a chestnut mare named Willow wandered alone through alpine meadows that seemed to echo with memories. At 6 years old, she carried a grief that had transformed her from a social creature into a solitary wanderer. The previous spring had stolen everything: a late snowstorm claiming her foal and leaving her heart as barren as the wind-swept ridges she now called home. Wildlife researcher Dr. Amanda Torres had been documenting Willow's unusual behavior for 2 years, watching through telephoto lenses as the mare deliberately chose isolation over the comfort of other horse bands. She exhibits classic signs of maternal grief, Dr. Torres noted, her scientific training unable to mask the sympathy in her voice. Horses experience profound loss, and Willow's behavior suggests she's still processing the death of her foal. That early June morning started like countless others, but something was about to shatter the tranquil scene forever. Suddenly, Willow's entire demeanor shifted. Her head lifted sharply, ears swiveling forward as her nostrils flared to catch scents on the mountain breeze. Something near the meadow's edge had captured her attention, something that would challenge every assumption about predator and prey relationships. Dr. Torres quickly adjusted her spotting scope, watching Willow approach a massive fallen pine with unusual caution. As the mare drew closer, Dr. Torres gasped at what her scope revealed. Three tiny wolf pups, no more than 3 weeks old, huddled beneath the enormous trunk. Their eyes were barely open, their movements weak and unsteady, clear signs they had been abandoned. No sign of the mother or pack, Dr. Torres whispered into her recorder. They're in critical condition. Every law of nature dictated what should happen next. Horses and wolves were ancient enemies, their relationship defined by predator and prey dynamics that had existed for millennia. Willow's instincts should have screamed danger, demanding she flee from these potential threats. Instead, Willow did something that would leave wildlife experts speechless. She approached the whimpering pups and gently lowered her great head, breathing softly on their tiny forms. The largest pup, a dark-coated male, responded to her warmth by attempting to crawl closer. Rather than stepping back in alarm, Willow carefully positioned herself near the fallen log, using her body to create a windbreak that shielded the vulnerable babies from the mountain's harsh elements. As evening approached and temperatures began their inevitable drop, Willow made a decision that would baffle scientists around the world. She carefully lowered herself beside the fallen tree, positioning her warm body as close to the pups as possible without crushing their fragile forms. When Dr. Torres returned at dawn, she discovered a scene that defied every principle of animal behavior she had studied. Willow had spent the entire night protecting the wolf pups, and incredibly, all three were still alive. More remarkably, they had somehow managed to nurse from the mare. Though equine milk wasn't ideal nutrition for wolf pups, it was sustaining them when they would have otherwise perished. The impossible had happened. In defying her deepest instincts to save three helpless enemies, Willow had found something she thought was lost forever: a family worth protecting with her life. Over the following weeks, Dr. Torres established a discreet observation post to monitor this extraordinary relationship that was rewriting scientific understanding of animal behavior. What she documented challenged every assumption about the boundaries between species, predator and prey, love and survival instinct. Willow treated the growing pups exactly as she would have treated her own foal, guiding them to fresh water, standing guard while they slept, and gently correcting them when they wandered too far from safety. The pups, whom Dr. Torres named Alpha, Shadow and Luna, were developing in ways that defied biological explanation. The pups are learning hybrid behavioral patterns, Dr. Torres recorded after a month of observation. They're absorbing horse social cues while retaining their wolf instincts. They learned to follow Willow at a respectful distance during her daily movements across the alpine terrain. When she grazed, they would play nearby, their puppy games gradually incorporating elements they observed from their adopted mother. Most remarkably, they began responding to Willow's warning signals with the precision of horses. A sharp snort meant danger. Ears flattened meant take cover immediately. The pups were becoming bilingual in the languages of two species that should have been natural enemies. But nature has a way of asserting itself, and the first signs of tension appeared when the pups were 5 weeks old. A black bear wandered into their meadow one afternoon, and Alpha's response sent chills down Dr. Torres' spine. The young wolf positioned himself between the potential threat and Willow, growling with surprising fierceness for such a small animal. Willow stomped and snorted, driving the bear away while the pups retreated to safety, but something fundamental had shifted. News of the unusual family spread through wildlife research networks, drawing attention from behavioral experts worldwide. Rachel Martinez, a specialist in carnivore behavior, joined Dr. Torres in the field to study the developing dynamics that were challenging everything scientists thought they knew about interspecies relationships. "What we're seeing here rewrites our understanding, Dr. Martinez concluded after observing the family for a week. "This isn't just tolerance, it's active parenting across species lines." As summer progressed, the wolf pups grew stronger and more coordinated. They learned to hunt small prey like rodents and ground squirrels, but always returned to Willow by evening. Their games became more sophisticated, incorporating both wolf pack dynamics and horse herd behaviors they'd learned from their adoptive mother. But even as the family bond deepened, subtle changes were beginning to appear in the pups' behavior, instincts that would soon test the strength of their unlikely connection. The researchers could sense it building like a storm on the horizon, the awakening of something deeper, more primal, that might prove stronger than the love that had saved these three lives. By late August, the three wolf pups had grown into adolescents, their bodies lean and powerful, their movements increasingly coordinated. The dynamic created an almost surreal scene: three increasingly capable predators playing and resting with a prey animal who treated them as her own offspring. But the harmony was fragile, and everyone studying this remarkable family knew they were approaching a crossroads that would test whether love could truly conquer the call of the wild. The first snowfall of autumn brought more than just a change in weather, it brought destiny calling through the mountain darkness. Dr. Torres and Dr. Martinez watched through night vision scopes as four adult wolves emerged from the tree line, their presence immediately detected by the three adolescents who had grown restless under the changing sky. Alpha was the first to respond, his head lifting from where he'd been resting beside Willow. A low, haunting howl echoed across the meadow, the adult pack calling to any wolves in the area. Without hesitation, Alpha answered, his voice now deep and powerful, carrying across the mountain valley with unmistakable authority. "This is the moment we've been dreading, Dr. Torres whispered into her recorder, her voice thick with emotion. "The biological imperative is taking over." Willow sensed the change immediately. Her three adopted children became increasingly agitated, responding to calls she couldn't understand. The mare moved protectively closer to them, but for the first time since she'd found them as helpless pups, they pulled away from her comfort. Shadow and Luna flanked Alpha as he moved toward the forest edge where the adult wolves waited, their wild heritage finally asserting itself after 4 months of impossible harmony. The wild pack's alpha male emerged into the moonlight, a massive gray wolf with scars marking his muzzle and shoulders. He studied the three adolescents with keen intelligence, his body language communicating both dominance and invitation. This was their true family, their natural place in the ecosystem that had always been waiting to reclaim them. For 3 agonizing days, the young wolves spent increasing amounts of time with the wild pack while still returning to Willow each evening. But their behavior had changed fundamentally. Where once they had sought her warmth and comfort, now they seemed restless in her presence, their eyes constantly scanning the forest for their new packmates who represented everything their DNA had been programmed to seek. The heartbreaking transition reached its crisis point when the wild pack began to move on, following ancient migration patterns that would take them deep into wilderness areas where no horse could follow. The 3 adolescents faced an impossible choice: abandon the mother who had saved their lives or forsake their biological destiny. Alpha made the decision for all of them, on a crisp October morning that would haunt Dr. Torres for the rest of her career. The young wolf approached Willow one final time, and the researchers watched in stunned silence as he gently touched his nose to the mare's muzzle, a gesture of goodbye that seemed to transcend species boundaries. Willow seemed to understand. She nickered softly, the same sound she'd used to comfort them as tiny pups, and nuzzled each of the 3 wolves in turn. When they walked away to join the waiting pack, she didn't follow or call them back. "She's letting them go, Doctor," Torres said, tears streaming down her face despite her scientific training. "She knows they belong with their own kind." The last image the researchers captured showed Willow standing alone in the meadow, watching as 4 adult wolves and 3 adolescents disappeared into the forest. The family that had defied nature was finally yielding to its demands, leaving behind a love so profound it could only be measured in the willingness to say goodbye. 5 years later, Dr. Torres found herself back in the familiar meadow for her final research season before retirement. The harsh Montana winter had tested every creature in the park, but spring had brought renewal and an ending more beautiful than she could have imagined. Willow, now 11 years old, was no longer alone. She grazed peacefully alongside two other mares and their foals, a small band of wild horses that had migrated into the territory. The sight brought bittersweet joy to Dr. Torres' heart. The mare who had once wandered in solitary grief had finally found her natural family. "She's found her place at last," Dr. Torres noted, watching as Willow gently guided a playful foal away from potential danger. The maternal skills she displayed with the wolf pups are evident in how she interacts with these horses. There was wisdom in her movements now, the hard-earned knowledge of a mother who had loved deeply and lost gracefully. Meanwhile, trail cameras revealed that the wolf pack had thrived beyond all expectations. Alpha had become the dominant male of the region's largest pack, with Shadow serving as his loyal lieutenant. Their unusual upbringing had provided unexpected advantages. They were more adaptable, less fearful, and more strategic than traditionally raised wolves. The hybrid behavioral patterns they'd learned from Willow had made them exceptional survivors. But the most remarkable moment was yet to come. That autumn afternoon, as Dr. Torres prepared to pack her research equipment for the final time, movement at the forest edge caught her attention. A familiar silhouette emerged from the shadows, Alpha now graying around his muzzle, accompanied by an extraordinary entourage. Behind the aging wolf came his extended family, his mate heavy with another litter, 3 adolescent offspring from previous years, and most remarkably, Shadow, who had never forgotten the lessons learned in this sacred meadow. The 2 surviving members of Willow's adopted family had returned together for one last pilgrimage. "They're bringing the next generation to meet the mare who saved them," Dr. Torres whispered, her camera capturing what would become her most treasured footage. Willow approached the gathering with calm dignity, her age and experience evident in her measured movements. The young wolves watched their elders interact with this strange horse, sensing the deep significance without understanding its history. In Alpha and Shadow's eyes, Dr. Torres could see the memories of a summer when love proved stronger than instinct, when a grieving mother found purpose in saving the offspring of her natural enemy. As one of Alpha's youngest pups approached Willow curiously, sniffing at her legs without fear, Dr. Torres realized she was witnessing the completion of an extraordinary circle. "Each generation learns that compassion can bridge any divide," she whispered. As the sun set over the meadow, the wolves melted back into the forest, leaving Willow with her horse family. But the legacy lived on, in behavioral patterns that challenged scientific understanding, in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed this miracle, and in the proof that nature's most beautiful moments often arise from its most unlikely combinations. The story would continue somewhere in the wilderness, where wolves raised by a horse carried forward the memory of unconditional love, demonstrating that the boundaries we imagine between species are nothing compared to the infinite capacity of the heart to heal, protect, and transform the world through compassion.